Greenville, South Carolina. She became a vegetarian in 2001 and slowly transitioned to veganism in March 2013. She began training for bodybuilding at the same time. She has competed 6 times. She took first place in novice heavyweight bodybuilding and physique in Texas this summer with the National Vegan Bodybuilding Team, Plant Built.
Yeah.
She also helped
And if you haven't seen us, this is us.
A free online magazine for plant-based women interested in fitness. Please help me welcome Erin Fergus.
All right. So first of all, who has heard of Team Plant Built already? Raise your hand. I want to kind of see how familiar people are. What about Definition for Ladies magazine? Okay, so you'll see on the last slide of the handout, I do have a lot of different contact information. It'll come up here at the top, and then you also have it to take with you. So some of my personal contact information, and then how to get hooked up with Plant Built and Definition for Ladies as well. So the reason why I put this PowerPoint together, being a college instructor, especially in South Carolina, I have a lot of myths that I have to bust. And that's one of my favorite things that I do while I teach. So I figure the main 2 things for us is vegans can't build muscle on plants, right? And then what about women are going to turn into men if they strength train, right? We're going to get really manly. So those are the 2 main things that I'm going to bust. But I kind of want to know, what do you guys say when people ask, where do you get your protein? Anybody have a good example? Like, oh, from the people that ask me that question, I eat them. Things like that. We got the funny ones. Or it's just food, right? I just eat food. So some of the main myths that we're going to kind of talk about, and I'm sure you've probably seen this meme. I don't always mention I eat meat or dairy, but when I do, everyone becomes an expert on protein, okay? They want to tell us all about it, okay? So how do you get enough protein? Vegans don't get complete protein. Are you worried about soy? Lifting weights will make me bulky. I can't build muscle on a vegan diet, and I would lose all my gains if I went vegan. Okay. Slide. All right. So some of the truths. Anybody heard that protein provides energy? Have you heard? I've heard, especially the egg industry will try to use this to say, "Oh, I need energy. Let me eat my eggs and my protein." Well, protein is the very last thing that your body wants to pull energy from. We have our carbohydrates as our main source, our fat depending on what we're doing, but you would only use protein for energy if you were like starving, or maybe you did an Ironman and you weren't eating anything along the way, and then you kind of went for protein. So that's completely a myth, but people are buying into it, and especially when it says, oh, energy, protein, egg, all that kind of thing, people are putting it together and they believe it. Okay, protein is not the most important macronutrient. Any chance that we have any 80-10-10 people in the room? Anybody follow that? Okay, so we can go as low as 10% from protein and up to 25%. That's a pretty standard recommendation. You probably have heard of people do more. I know when I'm in a contest diet, I do eat more than 25%, and that's to help me lean out, but that's not my normal daily. Like right now I'm in the off season, so I'm kind of just eating protein as it comes, but I'd say I get more protein now ever as a vegan than I did before as a vegetarian. And I don't know, some of you might agree with that. It's really easy, and we'll have a slide that has all the different protein sources coming up. Okay, so the first thing I try to do when people ask me about the protein is I teach them that protein is not as important as we've all been brainwashed to think that it is. So you can kind of switch that conversation around when people come at you with the, don't you get enough protein? Tell them that it's really not as important as we all think it is. There's nobody in this country that is protein deficient, okay? We just don't see it, okay? There's been a lot of research going around, how much protein do I need at a time? And they studied 80 grams at a time, 40 grams, 20 grams. 20 grams is where it's at, okay? Every 3 hours or so, and 20 grams is enough that you can get it through food sources. You don't have to use protein shakes, you don't have to supplement. I'm personally a fan of shakes because they taste good and they're really easy to just put it in my shaker cup and go. So, but if anyone tries to tell you that you have to supplement with protein shakes, that's also incorrect. So the 20 grams at a time, spaced out every so often, that's the easiest way for your body to absorb the protein, okay? Then you've got some of your meathead bodybuilders that say 1 gram per pound of body weight is meat, but it's supposed to be 1 gram per kilogram. So anybody know the conversion between pounds and kilograms? 2.2 different. So there's a big difference between saying 1 gram per pound versus 1 gram per kilogram. So I think some people just kind of mess that one up and they think we need more protein. Then the complete versus incomplete thing, we're talking about the amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein. There's 20 of them, and a food that has all 20 of them is considered complete, and one that doesn't is considered incomplete. So another thing they will try to tell us is that we can't get any complete proteins. Actually, at my college, before I started teaching there, they didn't teach about any vegan proteins. So now in our nutrition classes, we make sure we talk about soy, quinoa, hemp, chia, all of those kind of things. I've had a handful of students that have actually kind of transitioned more toward a plant-based diet, and it's really cool. So I couldn't choose the exact perfect picture for getting all these protein sources in, but I wanted to throw in a couple pictures of different brands of protein powders, and by no means is this all of them. I mean, there's a ton of them out there. You can go more toward a rice protein, a hemp protein, maybe something like a Vega 1 that has your greens in it. Plant Fusion also makes food, PHOOD, that's more of a meal replacement. You got your Vega Sport, a little bit pricier, but more toward an athlete. Okay, it's got some recovery things worked in there. And then you can just see our range of items. I'm sure most of us eat a lot of these things that are on here. So even if you don't consume soy, or maybe you're gluten-free, there's still a lot of things to choose from. Okay. So any questions on any of the proteins in here? Maybe the raisin and avocados are kind of ones that you weren't used to. Pore source? That's one of the most dense ones that there is because it's called the wheat meat. I don't know if you guys have heard it called that. So, and it's a great choice, I think, for people who are worried about the protein. When I show them that content, and then, hey, this is the one that is composed the most like meat, kind of tastes the most like meat. So someone who's a very meat-centric person, it's a good one to kind of give them to wean off. And if anybody know Tiffany Burich, also a Plant-Built member, any of those other people? We have gone crazy for seitan muffins. We're taking this wheat meat and turning it into cookies and muffins and all that kind of stuff. So by all means, email me. I just made some pumpkin ones not too long ago. It's super easy to do, but you're kind of like, I'm making dessert out of something that's supposed to be meat. So it's a little weird, but then you're getting your protein and your sweet at the same time. So I love to get into the baking and all that kind of stuff. Okay, I think we can move on from there. Okay, so soy. Anybody soy-free in here? Okay, got a couple of them. So kind of back and forth on this. The funny thing I always use when people are just, oh God, soy is going to give you breast cancer and stuff. And I said, well, if soy is going to make me have so much estrogen, wouldn't I have bigger boobs too? You know, and then they don't know what to say to that. So, so of course in men, one of the big things is they think, I eat soy, I'm going to get boobs, right? We know men that think that, they're worried about it. You know, even if it's a little bit of soy milk in their coffee. So that's not true. Okay, one of the possible things is that when you do take in a lot of soy, it could shorten the menstrual cycle to where you're getting maybe instead of a 28-day cycle, a little bit shorter. So that's one thing that you may notice if you're taking in a little bit of soy. But another thing to kind of use when people are talking about the soy, is it harmful? Look at Asian countries, very high soy consumption, and what do you think their breast cancer rates are? Very low, right? Okay, so there's another one of those correlations that we can make, okay? And then it's got some other great factors as well. Lower blood pressure, lower LDL, which is your bad cholesterol, okay? Also omega-3s and tons of calcium, okay? And your greens have calcium too, so it's a really good thing to have. And just make sure everything's clearly labeled these days, so pretty easy to get organic, non-GMO tofu, $2 a block, something like that, okay? I'm also a big tofu fan, and I eat it raw, and I didn't know that other people didn't eat it raw until I posted a picture on Instagram, and people were like, that looks raw, that's disgusting. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I thought that's how you ate it. So, I don't know, I just put nooch on top and go with it, you know? Right, so, but I don't know, I'm like, you bake it for an hour? That sounds like a lot of work. So, okay, next slide. Next slide, okay. Whoop, let's go back. Okay, so lifting, this, I could go on and on and on about lifting, okay? But as you saw my picture, we'll get into that. So you can lift weights and scratch your own back, right? Some people think lift weights, muscle bound, can't move around, Neanderthal, can't put on my own clothes, that kind of thing. So yes, when you strength train, you're making your muscles shorter, because as they contract to build strength and lift that weight, they are getting smaller, but you can stretch and not be muscle bound, okay? And one of my big successes lately is I can pass the back scratch test on both sides, which is when you put your arms behind your back and touch. Used to not be able to do that, okay? So I'm getting mobility gains just as much as I'm getting strength gains. Big difference between a natural bodybuilder and an enhanced one. Anybody go watch bodybuilding shows? Okay, we've got the NPC division, not drug tested. So some of the people that you see there are enhanced. They can take anything under the sun that will make them look stage ready. Okay? Then you have natural shows, which we have to do polygraph tests and urinalysis and all this stuff we can't do a lot of extra stuff. You can take your pre-workout, your creatine, but above and beyond that, you can't do anything to enhance yourself. So some people are used to seeing the big freak-looking people that are enhanced with steroids, and that's the view that they have in their mind when they say bodybuilder. Okay? But most of the organizations are natural ones. All the shows I've been in are natural. So I've been polygraphed a bunch, but yeah.
I actually used to go to the Arnold Classic. I used to live in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And do they have natural bodybuilders up there?
Well, Arnold Classic, it usually depends on what organization they're associated with. So like NPC and IFBB, yeah. You know, and then we have some like if anybody's heard of Jahina Malik, the vegan since birth, and she's the first vegan to get a pro card in the IFBB. She just did that in I think it was in June. So IFBB is a non-drug tested federation. So to come in as a natural person, vegan since birth, to get that was humongous. It just shook up the industry so much. So she was supposed to compete with us in Texas, and she couldn't because of the crossover in the organizations. So yeah, but when you hear NPC, if someone's doing NPC, that means they can use prescription diuretics. There's a female steroid called Anavar that women are starting to use to help them lean out and kind of build some tissue. They can take all that, and it's fine. It's not tested. Okay. So, steroids, improper steroid use, you can actually take on characteristics of the opposite gender. So a man who uses steroids, shrinkage of the testicles, they will start to grow breast tissue. Females can start to take on more male characteristics. So it's kind of tricky stuff to get into. Okay? Exercise doesn't have to take hours and hours and hours. I think some people think, okay, I'd love to train for something, but I don't have the time. Okay? I'm all about train smarter, not train longer. Because you can be in the gym for 3 hours talking, taking selfies, flexing in the mirror, that kind of stuff, and not getting a lot done. Or you can be in there for 45 minutes and leave drenched in sweat. Okay? So it doesn't have to be something, if you've ever thought about, I'd like to compete, but I don't have the time, that shouldn't be a reason that makes you kind of push away from the sport. Okay? And strength training doesn't make you big. One of my favorite phrases, this is another funny one, but skinny girls look good in clothes and fit girls look good naked. Have we heard that one? Okay, so because it's all about being compact. Okay, so when you're strength training, you're basically burning the fat and you're replacing it with lean tissue. So you're kind of becoming more dense but more solid. Okay, so that fills out your clothes better and just makes you stronger all around. So it isn't strength training that makes you quote unquote big. Okay, and actually people like me who want to build muscle, we wish it was that easy to just lift a couple weights and just blow up like a little shoe that we could squeeze the tongue on. Okay, it's never too late to start. Okay, in college we used to train people that were in their 70s and 80s that had never strength trained, and they went from using walkers to walking on their own within 12 weeks. So I mean, it's at any age. So if you have family members that aren't strength training and they think it's too late, it is never ever too late, because the more strength training, even if it's just using body weight, if you have an older adult who you want to teach them how to just kind of sit in a chair and then come out of the chair, that's a skill that we think is very easy now, but for someone who is having trouble getting on and off the toilet, if they can do that easily, that might keep them independent longer. So very important to do that. And there's something called sarcopenia, which is similar to osteoporosis, but for muscle. So if you're not using your muscle, it will start to waste away, and that happens as early as your 30s. So if you're not doing something, it's not too late to start, but you should start, like tomorrow. So, okay. And another big thing is it's vital for bone health. So especially you women out there, strength training, if we're putting a load on the skeleton, it's going to make our bones denser and stronger, because none of us want hip fractures or anything like that. Okay. Okay, so this is how I won Transformation Tuesday on the internet. Okay, so this is this is the beginning to the summer, and you can see, seeing the stage pictures is really good, especially for women. There's a lot of stuff in media that makes us always think that we're not good enough. So I can guarantee you I looked like that for that day only. Okay? Then the multiple layers of spray tan came off. I looked normal colored. I ate some food. We had Arlo's bacon cheeseburgers and fries that night. Okay, and then we had ice cream the next day. So I filled out a little bit. Okay, so that's not my normal. My mom saw some of those pictures and she's like, Erin, what clothes are you wearing these days? Because your legs look humongous. Like, Mom, I don't stand like this all the time, flexed out. So March 22nd, this was, I had a past of being a runner, a triathlete, strength trained since junior high, but never to the level of bodybuilding. So I'm standing up there thinking, I'm the best looking person ever, right? And it's like nowhere near where I should have been. But that's also, I was about 3 weeks into being 100% vegan at that point. So my entire bodybuilding journey has been on plants. So I'm one of the few people that when people say, oh, well, all the vegan bodybuilders started out being meat eaters and they built all their meat on muscle, or built all their muscle on meat, and now they're just kind of maintaining. Well, that's not true. This is all plant, everything that I gained from there. So another thing I want to point out, how much weight difference do you guys think there is from left side to right side? Basically none. Okay, no weight. That maybe 127 pounds. I'm about 133 right now, just for comparison, but much different shape overall. But going from having some extra squishiness to more compact and pretty much same clothing size and everything. So that's really why I'm on a mission to show women that you can maintain all sorts of femininity, strength. I mean, I call myself the girly bodybuilder. I wanted the hot pink mic. I wear pink, makeup, all that stuff. So no difference in weight. 127 on both sides there. Yeah, but, well, you can kind of see, I carry more of my fat in the stomach. I'm kind of the anti-normal female body that carries it more in the thighs and glutes. I'm more of a around the stomach person. So I had a lot of extra fluff there that kind of came out and then just put muscle in different areas. So body fat percentage, a huge difference here, but the muscle, like I said, it's just being more compact for the same weight. So, okay, and a lot of people will like to blame vegan diet on, oh, I can't build muscle because I'm eating plants. And no matter what you're eating, if you're not doing what you should be doing in the gym, you're not going to be gaining the muscle that you want. Okay, and I'd say just from years of working as a YMCA fitness director, being a personal trainer, group fitness instructor, I think across the board, people don't quite understand what it is to push themselves to muscle failure. So, like I said, it doesn't matter what you're eating. If you're not taking your training to the level that you should, then you're not going to see the growth and the change that you want. Okay, so kind of just came up, I like mnemonics and things because remember I'm a teacher. So if you're not gaining, it's your training. So that's kind of where it's at. If you're not pushing your muscles to the limit, like I said, one of the things I always teach my students is that muscles can't count. And by that I mean, how many times have you guys been in the gym and you've seen a personal trainer standing there, 1, 2, and the person's just, and then they get to 10 and they still look like this, and then they put it down. You should be 10 like this, like you're really struggling. You're taking it to the muscle failure. So you shouldn't always be doing 10 reps of every single thing. That would be just such a coincidence if you magically hit muscle failure at 10 reps for every single thing that you did. So I want you guys to think when you're strength training, not so much about the number, but what is my muscle actually feeling? Could I do one more rep? And that last rep should be a little iffy looking. Not like to the point that you're going to hurt yourself, but it shouldn't be a perfect, pretty, oh, I got it up and down and I'm going to put them down now. Okay, so think about that. Muscles can't count. I could go on this slide for probably the rest of the day. So I'm going to just touch on this briefly. And if there's questions that you have specifically about this part, don't hesitate to email me. There's a lot of stuff I can send over your way, more about the training part. So you basically have 3 different goals. And I think a lot of people get stuck in this endurance. I don't know if anyone saw the article circulating recently that Gwyneth Paltrow's trainer said that women shouldn't lift anything more than 3 pounds. Okay, it's awful. We're like, okay, a newborn baby weighs over twice that, so just don't hold your babies, right? So a lot of people get stuck in this endurance thing, and that's probably more the rep range that I was in that initial picture that you saw, my transformation. So once I was introduced to bodybuilding, where it's like, okay, I might only do 6 reps of something or 8 reps and I'm already completely gassed, then I've never seen my body change so fast. So I took away all that endless amount of cardio, okay, because women think cardio is where it's at. That's the way we're going to change our body. So back off on the cardio in the off season. When I'm in a true off season, maybe 5-10 minutes of cardio a day. You know, I walk my dog, but actual cardio on a machine, very little. I'd rather spend time hitting the weights, okay, building the muscle, building the strength. I also dabble a little bit into powerlifting and other things. I recently did a CrossFit competition just because people said vegans couldn't do it, so I had to go do it, that kind of stuff. And I won, yay. So, and I wore my vegan muscle team tank and just said, oh, paleo, what? Okay, so, so low weight, high reps, we're thinking like 15 reps, 20 reps, that kind of thing, where you just kind of feel a burn, but you're not like fatigued, okay? So if you want to get into bodybuilding, endurance is not where you need to be, okay? That's good for maintaining leanness, that kind of thing, but if you want real strength and muscle, it's in the strength and hypertrophy range, okay? So I know I didn't write the reps on there because I was running out of room, but for strength, it's anything from 1 to 6 reps. I mean, it's really low. Like if you think of someone that's training for powerlifting, they do sets of usually 5 reps or less for everything, because in their sport, 1 explosive rep is all they need. So if you're trying to build strength, that lower rep, heavy weight, usually a lot more rest. So this is when it's okay to sit down for a little while, scroll Instagram in between sets. So usually 3 minutes or so of rest. And then hypertrophy, not hypertrophy, I know that's how it looks, but hypertrophy, that is just a fancy term for muscle growth. Okay, so when you have growth in size, hypertrophy. So usually moderate weight, something in like a 6 to 10 rep range for this. And high volume, meaning that the specific body parts that you were training get hit a lot of different times. So anybody heard of a training split? Anybody follow a training split? So it's what muscle groups you're doing on which days. So I know people talk about the importance of rest days. I actually strength train all 7 days a week because I have my muscle groups split out enough to where everything's still getting a decent amount of rest. Because for me, it's more the mental. If you take it away, I get really crabby. So I like the goal setting and starting my day with training. So by training split, that's all I'm talking about is different muscle groups. So if someone's transitioning from more of an endurance style training and they want to start to build muscle, you need to start grouping things out. So some of the more popular training splits, you may have heard of things like doing your back and biceps together. They're both pulling muscles. You might have heard of maybe people doing chest and triceps together. They're both pushing muscles, things like that. Legs maybe get their own day, that kind of thing. So those are the kind of questions, if you're sitting there going, how would that look? Feel free to email me or stay after and talk to me about what muscle groups on which days and how that would work. But when you start splitting it out, 45 minutes of strength training, I mean, you can hit it really solidly. There's days I might do, like right now, I have students in my program that train the instructors toward the end of their program, and one of them on Tuesdays does my biceps. We do 30 minutes nonstop of biceps, and they're like ready to explode out of my arms afterward. But it's great. For 30 minutes, I'm getting all that in there because it's split out so much. With your hypertrophy, also usually about 1 to 2 minutes rest in between sets, but you're keeping it moving pretty much. But like I said, the volume's where it's at, just really targeting that muscle in as many different angles and ways that you can think of. And I know you're thinking, okay, biceps, this is all you can do, right? Well, there's tons of different ways that you can change it up. So if you have questions about that too, let me know. And don't forget, muscles cannot count. All right. Okay, so some other benefits. Here's some more of my teammates. If you've ever heard of Tori, the Vegan Dread, if you want to look it up, it's THA, the Vegan Dread. It's very important. Okay, and Derek Treesize, he's only, I don't know, I'm 31. I think he's only 26 or 27, and he's got one of the most famous backs in the vegan bodybuilding world. Tori's got, I think, multiple pro cards by now, and he stood on stage in July. He didn't actually compete with us, but he had just eaten 4 vegan donuts, and then he still pretty much looked like that in the off season. He's just one of those people that's that conditioned. And then when we had our after party, he showed up to eat the buffet, and he's like, oh, I just left from some other restaurant. And I was like, oh, you went there this morning? And he said, no, I just left from there. I just ate, and I'm going to eat again. So he is a genetic freak, okay? But for the most part, we maintain leanness more easily. So when it comes to competition prep, if you know anyone who's not vegan who competes, it can get really just too much for them. I know a girl right now who's doing 3 hours of cardio a day to get ready for a show because she's having trouble leaning down. Or you have people who take all sorts of diuretics and whatnot, and they just really stress their bodies out. So as a vegan, we can maintain leanness better year-round, so when it's time to cut, we don't have to do all of that extreme stuff. So it's the kind of thing that we can do this for years, whereas some of the people who do non-drug tested shows and do all these things, they might last for a couple years and then they're going to burn their bodies out. So it's a much healthier way of competing. Okay, and we can drop body fat more easily. My coach said that it's kind of the thing you don't want to hear after it happens, but it made me feel good. She said I had the hardest diet, meaning I had the most body fat to drop of any of my teammates. So that didn't make me feel good to know that, but I was able to follow it. I think I ended up dropping about 20 pounds total. Like in the off season, I'd really let myself go last year, but I'm not going to do that again this year. Too many vegan treats, but plenty of food choices. Okay, like I said, you start turning things into things that you wouldn't think about, like seitan becomes muffins, seitan becomes cookies, protein powder becomes cookies, all these different things. But I got really into, I used a lot of TVP, tempeh, tofu, all sorts of different ways. So, and also vegetables, because pretty much when I'm getting on a contest diet, 2 cups of vegetables with every meal. So trying every kind of vegetable, every kind of Mrs. Dash. I have every flavor of Mrs. Dash. That's a bodybuilder heaven right there. Every type of salsa, olive, all these different things. So we have plenty of things that we can choose from. It doesn't get boring. So when I look at social media and I see non-vegan competitors, they eat the same thing all the time. Plain chicken breasts with nothing on it, broccoli, white rice. And they're so miserable. And everyone at my gym says, wow, you're so happy. And I'm like, because I'm eating good food that still tastes really good and I love it and I'm not miserable. And I even had someone say to me, I don't understand how you have so much energy. And I said to her, I don't know what you mean because I eat 2 cups of vegetables at almost every meal. Like I didn't quite understand where she was going with why I didn't have energy, because I'm eating real whole plant-based food. So I don't really know where that came from. And probably the biggest thing, if you ask a lot of vegan competitors, or ultra endurance athletes, triathletes, all of those kind of people, and bodybuilders, the biggest key to our success is that we recover very fast. Okay? Because think about it, if you're eating a lot of greens, your body's more on the alkaline side, less inflammation. We use things like maca. Any maca fans out there? Maca and glutamine, those kind of things. I ate a lot of ginger, turmeric. That pretty much saved my life. I had a back injury for months, started taking turmeric. A week later, it cleared up. So we have those more natural kind of remedies. So the faster that we can recover, the more we can train. So the more we can train, the more gains that we can get, the more we can change our bodies, and the better we can be in our sport. So that's another, I try to think of all the ways that I can sell the lifestyle to people that I didn't think would be a fan of that. And if you start with just the vegan stuff, they don't really get it. But if you say, hey, look at this seitan or this tofu, look at how many grams of protein are here, or look at how much I can train because I'm not sore, and all these kind of things. And then they think, okay, there might be a key to this. Okay. So if you didn't follow us at all over the summer, here's kind of a group shot that we took at the end. I don't think the powerlifters are, well, let's see. Yeah, powerlifters are kind of in the back there with the big medals around their neck, but we absolutely dominated in Texas this summer. So we had, in CrossFit, one of our females got second out of, I think it was 26 women, something like that. Powerlifters all took home medals. Some of them set state records. I think one of them hit a national record for her weight class, things like that. Bodybuilding, we had all sorts of pro cards and trophies and whatnot. So we are going to be, that should say 2014 actually, but we're going to be getting together next summer for 2015. So if you want to kind of follow that journey, I've included the website on there. And then we'll be taking a break as a team for 2016 with plans to get back together in 2017 with more regional type competitions, because me being in South Carolina, I don't really have many of my teammates around. There's one in Atlanta, that's about it. So we're kind of going to get some of that southeast stuff together and all the different regions. Okay. And I'll have a little bit of time left over for questions, but like I said, I left multiple ways to reach me. So my email, feel free to email me any questions if you don't get a chance to ask today. My Facebook page, that's my athlete page. So if you're kind of interested in like, okay, what does a day in Erin's life look like? Okay, not that I think that you care that much, but just if you want to know. So I have my food. When I'm in the off season, I cook and bake like crazy. So even if you just want to see some of my recipes and stuff, and also my workouts are in there. So that's kind of a way that you can connect with me there. Instagram, I try to keep that really, it's really important to me to keep my Instagram centered around fitness. You'll see my dog a couple of times, but for the most part, it's food and training related and not a bunch of just, here I am standing in this outfit and this outfit. Okay, Plant Built, got everybody's bios on there, information on how to support us. If you're wondering about I should have put this link on there too, but any of this type of clothing, veganproteins.com. That's the website to get this kind of stuff. You don't have to be on the team to get this. So you can buy the tank tops, the t-shirts, the hoodies, that kind of thing. They're great conversation starters, if nothing else, you know. I've met, in the last 9 days, I've met 9 vegans, not including even being here. And it's just kind of by wearing the clothing and just kind of asking people about Vegfest. And then Definition for Ladies, totally free. So if you like looking through free magazines, this is where it's at. If anybody knows Christy Morgan, the Blissful Chef, she's on the team with me for creating the magazine. Holly Knoll, who makes the Performance Fit Quick protein waffle mix. She's on there too. So we're getting ready to release a new issue in a couple weeks. So we've got, I think, 3 issues that are up there now. You can look at them just as a PDF file. So we got transformation stories, recipes. We're always looking for people to contribute. So if you want to write, if you have a transformation story or you do some cool event or have a recipe or anything like that, we would love to have you contribute as well. So got a little bit of time for questions if anybody has any. No? Yeah. Yeah. I started it as a spice, but although I love curry powder, I can't quite handle the flavor, so mine are in non-gelatin caplets. Yeah. Yeah. So I do that on the daily, and I mean, that's another thing that I've gotten students into, and they're kind of using it. And I also I had a history of migraines, and I cured them using magnesium and CoQ10, and that was another instant. I mean, started taking that within a week. I was fine. I had another student who took Imitrex, all this other stuff. She did the same thing, and same thing with her. No more headaches, just took them away. So I'm a big fan of using herbs, you know, vitamins, that kind of thing. Okay, yeah.
What is your response to people like I do CrossFit,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, say you're vegan, and it's like, and they all go, and I say, well, there are many elite athletes that are vegan. They're like, well, those are endurance athletes. That's different. It's with power. What do you?
Right. Well, I'm not really connected to the CrossFit community because really the competition I did, I had a couple weeks notice, and it was really the comment that bodybuilders weren't functional that I really had to go for that. So it wasn't even necessarily CrossFit. It was like, oh, I'm going to show you what vegan bodybuilders can do. But I think it's more of a let me show you what I can do kind of thing, you know, because there was another time, the very first time I ever went to CrossFit, I was wearing those green vegan little old school track shorts that I'm sure you guys have seen on the internet that are for sale, and I went and showed up and did the workout, and I beat everyone in it. And it's like, you guys were staring at my little vegan butt that whole time while I was beating you at your own sport, you know, like let me show you what vegans can do. So yeah, so it's more, that's kind of more my thing, but yeah, I don't know, I don't know what the perfect response would be, but yeah. Did you have a question there? Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's probably pretty standard for capsules. Does anybody else take them in capsule form?
Ginger ones.
Okay. And I know I've also seen turmeric ginger tea, which sounds kind of interesting. That's another way to take it. But then again, I don't know how that tastes. So, but I'm pretty sure it's probably pretty standard. So whatever you get it in. I know it'd probably be cheaper to just buy the powder in bulk and then buy your shells and make the little caplets, but you know, that's another way you could do it. Yeah.
So I also
Uh-huh.
Well, you know, you're little, and so I have one guy telling me he's been saying 130 grams of protein a day.
Right, like pound per body.